for Brand News, and this is the Financial Services News You Might Have Missed podcast. This is where I find news gems that might not have gotten their full chance to sparkle, and I dust them off a little bit. I'm joined by my trusted co-host, and more importantly, my trusted financial advisor, Brandon Galisi of Galisi Financial. Brandon, how's your week been going?
The week has been good so far, Allie. I got to jump on the first episode of kind of the reboot of the Elementality podcast yesterday with Wade Anderson, Element's new CEO. He was a COO for quite some time, but when him and Reese Harper bought it back, they're starting to reboot the podcast. So it was just a fun conversation. Got to talk a lot about Elements and how I use it in my process. So yeah, overall, that's it's been a great week so far.
Very nice. Good for you. And I'm glad that they're rebooting the podcast. I remember that it used to be a great success. So fingers crossed to them.
Yeah. I'm definitely looking forward to listening to plenty of the future episodes too. So that'll be good. But enough about me. What about you? What have you been up to this week?
This week, it's been a steady week. Just today, I was in the process of getting my website redesigned. So I don't know if everybody else has this problem too, but once I got the shiny new toy, aka the redesigned website, of course, I'm tinkering with it. So that's been fun.
And yes, I think literally any advisor, at least, or almost any business owner listening would probably say yes. You get that new website and you want to make sure everything is right where it needs to be and the copy's perfect. So I can at least relate. I can speak for myself for sure.
I guess, but I didn't realize that it's the equivalent of giving a dog toy.
Then you look up, you're like, oh shoot, 2 hours later.
But anyway, our first piece of news this week is from AtoZ Communications client Slant, which is the first AI native CRM built for financial advisors. The firm announced today the addition of customizable and easy to create intake forms. Literally, you can chat into the system and the form that you would like would be developed, including with your own branding. As many of you have probably experienced and heard in the industry, the client onboarding process is basically clunky at best. To quantify this, as many as 70% of financial firms have said that they've lost clients thanks to a lackluster onboarding process. This is according to Finergo. Slant's system can be used to create more than just intake forms. So if there's any particular kind of form that you want to send to a client, Slant can generate that for you. So obviously excited for my client. So having worked with clients in the past to relate to client onboarding, you realize what a tough transition process this is, and it feels like it shouldn't be. It should literally just be stop working here, start working there. So I'm glad that the process is getting improved, but would love to get your thoughts on this one.
Yeah, process sounds like it's certainly getting improved here. And I really like the concept of being able to create forms quicker with more of a chatbot feel versus having to feel like a graphic designer and design some of these. I was actually designing a landing page in the form earlier today, and you'd think these things would be simple, but well, I guess with Slant, it is simple, but if it's not in that, it ends up being much more complex than you would expect it to be. And I think just as we continue down this road of more of the experience economy, firms need to be mindful of these types of things, where if you're asking your clients or your potential new clients to jump through all of these different hoops, that is going to lead to some people falling through the cracks because it might just be too much work. So how are we constantly as advisors thinking about things that make it easier, at least from the client end? I mean, yes, we want to make it efficient for us as well, but client first, it's efficient on their end, then to the advisor, and then everyone's going to win in that scenario.
Yeah, I love that. Another thing about this that I appreciated, so the forms and all of this information coming into the CRM, this being in that central place where you need it anyway, and then it being able to expound outwards, I think it's just a really smart addition to it. I wouldn't have thought personally to add forms to CRM, but once you hear it, you're like, this is freaking brilliant. Way to go, guys. So it's been nice seeing them, their evolution. They've got note taking already. They have forms. They have AI automation and agents. So steadily adding one thing after the next and being super helpful. So glad to hear that.
Yep, agreed. And I think you called out something that's incredibly important, where even from, obviously, you wrote the press release that we're going through, but the fact that if you send out a form to a new client, since it's coming from the CRM, let's say it's a current client, you probably have the majority of their information, social security number, birthdays, address, things like that. I noticed in the article that when you send that out to the client, it doesn't ask them those questions again. And I feel like sometimes whenever you go to the doctor or dentist, you fill out the same information like 15 times what it feels like, or every time you fill out the exact same thing, which I find quite annoying. So I feel like this is a way to not do that and make it even easier for not just the advisor, but again, the client. Like, I don't need to ask you your birthday a bunch of times, Allie. I already have it. So if I kept sending you forms that are requesting your birthday, that would be annoying from your end, and it would be kind of sloppy and lazy from mine. So I feel like Slant is just making it much more simple to execute on this.
Yes. That's very well put point. It also reminds me, so having recently been in the hospital, they have those bracelets and you always have to read your name and your birthday. But every time that you do that, I feel like you sort of lose trust in the person that is speaking to you, as if you don't know that I'm assigned to this room and whatnot. So I agree with you. I think the fact that you can say like, look, I know your birthday. I know where you live. Just fill in the stuff that you have to shows that there's also a relationship there instead of start from scratch.
Absolutely. And hopefully from your end, it makes it feel more worthwhile of if I did request information, it's because I literally cannot get it myself. Because my goal is, and I don't have as good of a process, but if I were to send out a different form, for example, I would try to either pre-fill information that I do know, or if I could just exclude it on that particular form, I would try to do that from a manual perspective, which can be a pain. But even that, again, I do think is important because I want to save everyone's time. Or I'll take a little bit extra time on my end for the back office stuff if it makes the client's life a little bit easier. And again, a lot of my good buddies in the industry are doing the exact same thing. But sounds like Slant, just making it even easier.
Yeah, thank you. And I love that about you personally, that you try to make sure that I'm not doing duplicative things, and that if I could spend my time with my kids or if I could spend my time filling out a form, you're going to let me stay with my kids. So
absolutely.
Thank you for being
Absolutely.
that kind
Please.
of
Yeah. Yeah. You're very welcome. Please spend more time with your kids, less time filling out worthless forms.
Thank you. Thank you. Our second piece of news this week is from ZipRecruiter. I know that we've talked about AI and how it's going to impact jobs a bunch on this podcast. When I saw this research, I thought, given the fact that it's from ZipRecruiter, arguably it has a little bit more credence that AI isn't a job killer. So, according to their report, which was titled More Jobs, Higher Bar, the 2026 AI Employer Report, 92% of employers are using AI. As the press release said, companies are using the technology to expand their teams, speed up hiring, and raise what they expect from the people they employ. The data also said that 35% of employers expect to increase their headcount, while 33% anticipate that it's going to shift the kind of jobs that they're hiring for, but not necessarily the amount of jobs. So I thought that this was interesting. I mean, like we've said on this podcast before, you could look at this study and it says this, and you can look at this study and it says that. But I thought that it was great to see from a recruiting firm that this is where they see things going. Would love to get your thoughts on it, though.
I agree with you where it depends on how the research was done. We're seeing AI is taking all the jobs, AI is increasing the jobs, but I found this one encouraging as well. And especially coming from ZipRecruiter, that the stat that you just read, I feel like deserves another look. Of 35% say AI will increase headcount. And then another 33 said that it'll shift roles, but not expecting headcount to decrease. And I think at least from our conversations and even some of our own anecdotal evidence, that's kind of what we've talked about a lot, where I know for me, I'm able to be more efficient. I think other advisors are as well. And I think we can expand capacity. So we're not necessarily, quote unquote, firing people. Now, granted, right now I'm a solo, but if you can now work with more clients or more clients per advisor where you're still serving them on a deep basis, you're going to just continue to get more clients, and then you'll hire another advisor once there is going to be a capacity limit at some point, and continue to expand. At least that's kind of my thought from the financial industry perspective.
Yeah, absolutely agree. Also, please don't fire yourself.
Right. Yeah, that's not my plan.
Okay, thank you. Appreciate that. So the third piece of news this week is from Tipalti. Its payout infrastructure gap report showed that 47% of companies are either delaying or scaling back strategic initiatives over the last year because their payout infrastructure couldn't support them. About 51% of products and services launches were delayed, and then 47% delayed an expansion into a new market. So those were the most commonly affected. Also, 26% lost contributors in the last year because of their payout issues. I'm not going to lie, I think that I mostly found this article and was like, why can't we just pay people? Why isn't it as easy as like, here is the money?
I wish I had a better answer for that, because I think one of the most important things about business is make it easy for people to pay you. At least, again, from their end, because if you make people jump through hoops and fill out a bunch of information that might not be necessary, you're simply going to lose sales, and it's just going to be a nightmare. Or again, I think taking it to the financial industry, it's one reason why I think assets under management, the AUM model, has been so successful. And my take is it's going to continue to be successful. One big reason is it's really easy to pay. Clients can see what they're paying right on their statement, so everything's fully transparent. Of course, we're all talking about fees and doing our duty there, but they don't have to remember to pay every quarter or every month or every year or whatever the pay structure is. It's just happening automatically, being deducted from an account that they have invested, that they don't have to go in and constantly think about doing it versus, again, imagine having a bad pay structure where you have to manually go and pay a bill each month. You're going to have some people that eventually fall off, or a credit card gets declined. And then if you don't have a good process, then it's how do you get that updated, and makes it a lot more challenging. And I think, yeah, it's just how do we come up with the right systems to make it as easy as possible? Or I'm a big fan of, if it's not AUM, having a subscription where we've already agreed upon whatever that monthly, quarterly amount is, and then it just automatically gets charged on the X day of the month or of the quarter. Then the only time that needs to get updated is if a credit card were to need updated. So I'm a big fan of automating, because again, I think it's better for collection for as business owners ourselves, but I really do think it's a value for the client. Like, I know for my stuff, I try to have as many bills on auto pay as possible. Whether my water bill is $62 a month or $67, I'm really not all that concerned about it, as long as it's not like way high and indicating a water leak. I'm not too worried about the few dollars of difference. I just want it paid automatically. So set it up, go in there and monitor it, of course, occasionally, but yeah, it makes it easier even as the payee, if you will. I much prefer automated payments when possible.
Agreed. So maybe we figure this out. I mean, at the end of the day, it would be great from both sides.
Absolutely.
So our next piece of news is from Snappy Kraken. The MarTech firm's State of Digital and AI 2026 report showed that while website traffic was only up a little over 10%, website form submissions increased 110% from 2024 to 2025 when the data was collected. Another interesting statistic was, as the press release said, advisors with connected CRM systems, going back to Slant here, generated roughly 3 to 4 times higher engagement across key marketing metrics than advisors without CRM connectivity. So I thought that was really interesting as well. I wouldn't have necessarily correlated the two things, but then again, once you hear it, you're like, oh yeah, duh. If I have a whole system of who I need to be contacting in what fashion, yeah, obviously I'll be doing better. But what did you think of this report?
The connectedness makes a lot of sense, because if we're just doing marketing and we've got something over here, another thing over here, and both can be, we'll say, great in a vacuum. But if they are in that vacuum and things aren't talking to each other, what's the next step? Like you said, who am I following up with next? How do you make sure that nothing is falling through the cracks? Now, I don't necessarily think that someone needs to go out and have the craziest Zapier structure where everything's all automated and talking perfectly. But I do think there needs to be some level of coherence that makes sense and makes sure that the right things are talking to each other and flowing through, so that nothing falls through the cracks. So again, same as what you said, just makes a lot of sense to me.
Yeah. So in terms of the website rate versus the website form submissions, I'm thinking, I'm only a PR person and I listened to the webinar about this, but my guess would be then this is as a result of people really doing the research and AI showing all of the preliminary information about financial advisors, that by the time that they get to the website form submission, they're just like, yeah, of course I want to meet with Brandon, and how's next Tuesday, versus having to do all that research and reading up in advance. That would be my guess. And if that's the case, I mean, from my standpoint, better that you get that form submission and get that information that then goes in the CRM versus somebody, however many pages you have on your website, if they read every single one of them, but then don't take an action at the end of the day, did that even really matter?
Right. And I mean, I think that's, our industry in general is not necessarily the best at large at marketing in general. I think a lot of us know that compliance can make it tough at times too. But right, I mean, even something as simple as making sure we have some form of a CTA, a call to action, whether that's submit a form, whether that's specifically to book a call, download a PDF lead magnet or something like that. Again, by no stretch am I a marketing expert, but the little that I have learned, it's very important to guide someone what's the next action that you want them to take, because you could have the best website in the entire world, wonderful information, be a wonderful financial planner, but if they have to guess what they do next, you're probably going to lose out on a lot of really great people that you could have.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm not going to lie, I kind of appreciate the fact that you said that advisors are not necessarily good at marketing, because that makes this next part feel a little less painful. But another point that I found particularly interesting, and like I mentioned, I was on the webinar this week where this data was announced. What really hit home for me was the CEO, Robert Sophia, was explaining that a lot of financial advisors are doing awareness campaigns. That's by far the biggest type of campaign that's being done. But when you consider it, there are also lead generation campaigns. There are also referral campaigns. There are nurturing campaigns. So if we're basically just doing awareness all the dang time, it's the equivalent of like, hey, it's me. Hi, how you doing? I'm over here. A million times. And again, like smacked me in the face and was like, yeah, you're right. If we just keep like, hey, how are you? We're not furthering the conversation at all. It's just you get to be that obnoxious kid who just keeps bothering you.
Yeah. I mean, I think that is what, even just anecdotally, what a lot of advisors do. And I think at times, probably even what I've self admittedly done as well, where I'm posting a bunch of content, that's the awareness or that's the top of the funnel. But then now, I mean, even what I'm really working on is okay, so I feel like I'm solid on the awareness. How do I start making sure these other pieces get connected with the lead magnets, with driving action or moving people down the funnel, if you will? Because I don't know, sometimes it can just be easy. Oh, I posted content, I'm doing quote unquote marketing. But if it's not driving some form of, I'm really focused on just more conversations. How do we have more conversations? And that could be through forums, lead magnets. Again, the tactics aren't what we're talking about here, but just more conversations with the right people, likely going to lead to more business versus more people know about you. Great step one. But again, to your point and what the article is saying, that alone is not what you need.
Yeah. But you know what? And I think a lot of us are guilty of it too, that you just like keep reaching out to people in the same kind of fashion because you feel like basically just the, hey, how are you should get you somewhere. But I think this might be a case of where if you're segmenting your client population the right way, where you're understanding, like I started dripping on Allie January 15th. Now, by the time that we get to August 15th, if I'm basically doing the same thing to her this whole dang time, I sort of missed the mark. I should have at some point switched her to the nurture, to the this. Also, a factor of the fact that personally, I want you spending more time talking to me and explaining things to me than I do you finding your next client and doing these marketing activities. So is it just also difficult to, as an advisor, be doing all of your work and then on top of that, oh yeah, so like who has been in my nurture campaign exactly and who should I have in referral? It's got to be hard.
Right. It's a lot to balance. And again, I feel like we're talking plug Slant a lot today, but having some sort of system in place to help monitor that. I mean, that's the only way that I would be able to follow up with the people that I do. It's not, okay, who should I follow up with today? My goal is to have at least as good of a process as I can to have notifications that remind me, my CRM saying, oh, you haven't reached out to this person, or this is the quarterly touch point. Here's the piece of content that you need to send them. So it's not just, hey, just following up. It's, hey, here's this video that is directly relevant to your situation based on XYZ. And again, I think AI tools are going to help with that follow up or with this nurture and make advisors a bit more efficient, which hopefully then allows us to do it more consistently. Because if it's a little bit easier, a little bit lower of a lift, probably going to do it more effectively too.
Yeah. Yeah, so some great insights in there, and glad that we have all those. And actually, it's interesting. Our fifth and final piece of news this week, as you can tell, we had a heavy news week this week, is from WestCap, which partnered with Bella Private Markets and Tracksuit to create research called "Is Brand Strength Linked to Firm Valuation? Evidence from Consumer Survey Data." This found that 10% increase in brand awareness can be associated with about a 17% increase in total enterprise value. So, what I really liked from this press release was this quote, and it's from the CEO of Tracksuit, Connor Archbold. He said, marketers have always believed that brand health matters to the long-term success of a business, but it's been historically hard to prove. What this research shows is that brand metrics can act as an early indicator of where a company's value is headed, giving brand a rightful place in the boardroom conversation. As a public relations person, super duper appreciate this because I feel the same way. You know that your public relations efforts are helping, but you can't necessarily correlate unless you got a client on the front cover of the New York Times and they got a million phone calls thereafter and got, as a result, 100 new clients. It's very hard to tell something like that. So I appreciate the fact that somebody's taking the effort to make this kind of correlation and that there is a way to show it, because I would agree that if you are basically the best kept secret ever, you're still a secret.
Right.
But those are my fancy feelings. Do you have any?
Yeah, I mean, I think it makes sense. It's a great way to quantify. I mean, I think if you asked business owners, hey, is branding important? I would hope that you probably get 10 yeses. Now, what does branding mean? How do you execute on that? Sure, you're going to get a bunch of different responses there. But I think overall, really what we're looking at here is, and why these companies are more valuable if they have more brand awareness, is likely you're getting lower costs of client or customer acquisition. If more people know who you are, they're going to be pre-sold, if you will, if we're in the advisor context, if on that first phone call, versus if it's, oh, they Googled one time, found an advisor, and they're interviewing three, there's not a lot of relationship there. But if you've been consuming someone's content, and again, there's other ways to build the brand awareness, but if you've been consuming someone's content for years and years, you probably already feel like you know that person, or you already feel connected to this particular brand. So it doesn't cost as much for that company to acquire you as a client. And with that, you're easily going to be able to quantify higher multiples, and your business is worth more because you have to spend less to get a customer, and they might even stay longer too. So you start looking at these business metrics, and it all makes perfect sense.
It does. And I love the way that you laid out that argument. That was beautiful. It also made me think, I feel like there's a high correlation between somebody's brand awareness and then usually their trust of you. So even before we started working together, I was looking at your content and it's like, hey, you know what? This guy knows exactly what he's talking about. I trust what he's saying. As a result of that, I will work with you, as opposed to, I have no idea who you are. I don't know that I can trust you. This is already a profession that some people feel leery of and like they're used car salesmen. So the bar is a little bit higher. So being able to have that trust in somebody and feel like you said, I feel like I know him already. Absolutely. Take all my money. Please, let's work together.
Yeah. And again, I think that shows that advisors really do have a great opportunity. I know the previous study talked about the awareness, making sure that we're doing the awareness, but then of course getting into the nurture too. But it was also showing you're going to drive more, if this is important to the advisor, going to drive more enterprise value. I mean, if you look at some of the firms that we'll just say are crushing it with content out there and they're getting plenty of lead flow, all things held equal, that firm is going to be much more valuable compared to the one that has to spend 10 grand, 15 grand to acquire a client. Now that still could be very profitable depending on the other metrics, but again, it just ends up being common sense, hard to quantify in the moment, but hopefully you can maybe show this and people that are like, oh, why would I work with someone in PR? Okay, we'll start to stack the deck of, well, here's how we can quantifiably add value. More people know about you, client cost of acquisition goes down, potential multiples when you do want to sell go up.
Yeah. Yeah. So thank you, especially these three groups. So WestCap, Bella Private Markets, and Tracksuit. Thank you for this research. I will try to use this in some kind of marketing of my own, perhaps in the nurture sequence, I think. But yeah, I appreciate it too. And thank you for giving a little more credence to something that seems very opaque and just made up, basically. Brandon, thank you for letting me go on 5 topics this week and not for putting up a fight over it. So thanks for your great comments as always.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thanks for finding the news that we can talk about, and another fun conversation as always. I appreciate it, Allie.
Thank you.